Good morning, beloveds. I'm Carol Huntley, and you are here at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, right up here where our vision is awakening personal transformation, and our mission is teaching tools for positive change. That's what we're about every single Sunday, every single class, every single time we meet. So we have a year-long vision, which, boy, oh boy, it's working us, right? A world that works for everyone. So I'm going to begin this week exactly like I began last week, which is that we have lots of work to do. And to create a world that works for everyone, it requires that everyone steps up to create the world that we want to see. And if we just did the July theme, every single one of us, we would be a long ways towards creating a world that works for everyone. The theme for all 5 Sundays of July is loving kindness and forgiveness. So it was very meaningful last week to talk about this because of the goings-on in the world. And it's very important this week because of what happened in Nice. So we're going to pick up right from where we were last week. And I'm going to say something that if all of you are not with me, it's fine. But there's no time for hand-wringing. There's no time for us to say, oh my God, what is happening to our world? If you are not there yet, if you are not ready to step in and do the work that I'm going to talk about and that I talked about last week, if you're sad, if you're angry, please get a prayer from one of the practitioners at the end of this service, because if we all process the world goings-on differently, and sadness is very, very appropriate, and anger is very appropriate, and confusion is very appropriate, but it's not useful. And so we need to get you and me where you're useful to the world. And so as fast as you can go through the sadness and go through the anger and go through the confusion, the better workers you are in the world to create a world that works for everyone. So I'm going to launch right into the work that we need to do. And if you're not there yet, don't get mad at me. Don't say she's not compassionate. I am compassionate. I love you. And I want you to be good workers in the world. So if you need help in getting through the sadness, the confusion, and the anger, please, please in fact, go right now. If you need a prayer right now, just make your way over to the precious practitioners who will pray with you. Otherwise, we are launching. So the first, where am I here? It's important for us to remember that overall affirmation that we have that just seems so useful, and that is the world is changing and I am on the transition team. So what we know is that all of this energy, the energy of prayer and the energy of violence, is raising the temperature. It's like we are getting to a boiling point, and that's a lot of what I talked about last Sunday. That's a good thing, because what happens when a system gets to a boiling point is that it leaps into a new level of order. It's like chaos, 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 and then there's order. In fact, that was the favorite part of my talk I hear from last week, and that was about mayonnaise. You know, that when you make homemade mayonnaise, you put the egg in the oil and it's like gloppy and icky and runny, and then you keep adding energy to the system and it pops into this velvety emulsion that is wonderful, especially if it's garlic mayonnaise. So that's what's happening. The energy is raising, and when a system is in chaos, the effect that we have on it is more powerful. So now is the time for us to add our love, to add our peace, to add all of that wonderful God energy that moves through us and not remain in sadness, anger, and confusion. So I hear from a lot of you that you are doing the work. A lot of people came up to me after the service last Sunday and said, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to buy the CD and send it to this one. And I looked on our YouTube channel and the videos that go up right after the service every Sunday. There were more people that listened to the July talks. And so I encourage you to do that to remind yourself of the work that's ahead of us. So the quote that we're working with this Sunday is this one. We see a world of peace and harmony, justice and enfranchisement. And so I want to draw your attention to this gorgeous altar that was done by Galen and Mark Cooper. It's so beautiful. I mean, Mark was out there spraying the letters this morning, so it was just wonderful. And so that world of peace, harmony, justice, and enfranchisement is the world that we sang about in the song Imagine, right? Isn't that true? So the first step, of course, to creating a world like this is to first find the pieces of the world that are already in peace and harmony. Find those pieces that are working. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of kindness. In this community, there is a lot of kindness. There is a lot of caring for one another. There is harmonious action, and it is everywhere. And so what you do is you find it and you weigh it heavy and you think about it. You are grateful for it. You think about the hugs that you saw today. You think about people falling into each other's arms and being so kind with one another, and you say, that is the world that works for everyone, and you weigh it heavier than the violence. That I know that that's a challenging assignment, but that's what we do. We look for what works and we weigh it heavy. We weigh it heavier than what doesn't work. And by that, we become a force for good in the world, and we are in the midst of creating the world that we want to see. So the title for the talk today is this: I am a stand for peace. I absolutely love this image. There's better color in it, and I'm going to send this image out to you because I love it so much. But we're going to take the operative words in that quote, the peace, the harmony, the justice, and the enfranchisement, and we're going to talk about how we hold it and then what we do with it, because we have to work in both realms. We work in our heart and we work in the world, right? Ready? Are you with me? Launching? Good. Okay, first point is holding others with sympathetic understanding for peace and harmony. So this is everybody. We hold everybody in sympathetic understanding. We hold the people that we judge and the people, there's a wonderful quote that I found on Facebook this morning. Facebook, how I love Facebook. So get this. This is from A Course in Miracles. Somebody put this up. The strain of constant judgment is virtually intolerable. It is curious that an ability so debilitating would be so deeply cherished. Let me read the first sentence again. The strain of constant judgment is virtually intolerable. It hurts you. It hurts me. We get all wrought up with judging this one and that one and who did that and who committed that violence and who said that and what the political people are doing. When I'm going to give you two examples of harmony, and I want you to think about that. And the two examples of harmony actually are not even people. I've given you this one before, and I'll go through it quickly, but it's about an experiment with light bulbs. And so what happened was, this is the tendency to organize and harmonize is not just found in living beings. So what happened was that how many light bulbs? Building on their theoretical, he wired together a network of 200 light bulbs. Each bulb was assigned a relationship with 2 other bulbs. It was to turn on or off based on the behavior of either of its 2 assigned partners. And even with such simple conditions, the number of possible states of on and off bulbs is 10 to the 30th. And so they wondered if they turned this on, they plugged them in, and they're going on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, 200 of them, how long would it take for them to get to a repeating pattern? And they thought maybe it would happen, but it would take a long, long time. With a universe of possibilities to explore, the bulbs organized immediately into 4 patterns. Even when the connections were changed, linking bulbs to 2 different partners, patterns emerged in new design, but still patterns. Harmony is free. Another one that I'm going to send out on the letter is from Facebook as well. And this was about 30 metronomes. And the metronomes were set to clicking. You know, metronomes are what keeps the beat in music. That's what I should use when I play. But anyway, they were tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And there were 30 of them all going tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. In 2 minutes on this video on YouTube, they start ticking together. These little things that don't have a brain, they just start harmonizing together. This is the world we live in. This is natural. It is absolutely natural to harmonize and to balance one another. So I'm going to send that out in the recap letter. If you are not on the letters that I send out, one recap letter and one invitation letter, all you need to do is go to ggcsl.com and click on subscribe and put your name in there, and you will get my email letters. So for people, I think it's easier, honestly, for light bulbs and metronomes, because for people, it's easy to harmonize when there's agreement, right? But when there's not agreement, we go into that judging mode, which is intolerable for our soul. And me, you know, I really like to keep the peace. And so it's hard for me when I'm in disagreement. And so I did something this week that I haven't done before. I responded to a political statement from somebody that I don't even know that I thought was not thinking deeply. And it was one of those statements where they go, "I'm pretty sure that," and then some stupid assertion. You know, you just teach what you need to learn, that's all. So I really tried to communicate the highest truth that I knew, calling on their knowledge of the high truth as well. And not saying you're an idiot or anything like that, just saying, how about thinking this way? Not knowing whether they would or anything, but I felt like I did the best I could in establishing harmony and still speaking my truth when I disagreed. So we come to you'd think that we would all be able to see the high truths instantly because they're true, right? But we all come to every single situation bringing every single thing from our past up to the present moment. So everything we've experienced, every mistake we've ever made, every assumption we've ever thought, every subconscious message that we got from our parents before we had the faculty to think deeply, we bring all of that up together. So I discovered podcasts this week. I mean, I may be behind every single one of you in this room, but I discovered podcasts, and I listened to a podcast about why intelligence, international intelligence reporting doesn't work very well. And it was a story about the Vietnam War and the Rand Corporation. And what happened was there were two brilliant, brilliant men that were hired by the Rand Corporation to look at the intelligence reports about the Viet Cong and to ascertain whether we were winning the war or not. This was before we didn't win the war. And what was very interesting was that both of these brilliant men, both hired by the Rand Corporation for intelligence analysis because they were brilliant, came to exactly the opposite conclusions based on the same intelligence reports. One of them said, oh yeah, we just keep doing what we're doing and we're going to win. And the other one said, there's no way that we're going to win. And so there was no conclusion except that conclusion. They looked at the same things and saw different analysis, different working out of what the analysis showed based on what they brought from their life. So we all do that. We all bring so much stuff. We bring so much stuff to listen to the news. We bring so much stuff to listen to the candidates. Everything from our past impacts what we think is deep thinking, right? So the more that we can kind of dig through this thing, the things that cloud the high truth of God to come through, that's a good thing. So, our denomination has a diversity commission that is about bringing light to the racial issues. And I have requested information about diversity training for us. So that you'll hear more and more about that. But that's coming. I mean, I think we can all benefit from that. Because what we want to get to is what we sang in the second chant, and that is this: I find myself in everyone. There is really only one of us. And when we know that, when we can say that coming out of a sound sleep, looking into the face of someone that woke us up and said, there is only one of us, that's when we're on the right track. So that is peace and harmony. The next is standing for justice and fairness for all. So isn't this great? Is three little people watching a game, this is equality, this is justice. So we don't talk about justice very much. In fact, there's only one time that justice, the word justice, appears in our textbook that Ernest Holmes wrote. And I think it's because in our philosophy, we think that justice will work itself out because consciousness is causative. And if we have the consciousness of hatred, or if we have the consciousness of judgment, or if we have the consciousness of competition, it will play out in our lives and we'll be in pain. And so the philosophy is, if we just pay attention to what's happening in our lives, we're going to get all these lessons. Well, as I said in the last point, sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But actually, it's a wonderful thing to think about justice in a deeper way and fairness in a deeper way. Because that's what we want for everything, you know. And as I was thinking about this, I remember a child rearing technique that my second husband used that at the time I thought it was pretty good. And this was when you have one piece of dessert and two kids. And so what happened was he said to one kid, you cut it in half. And the second kid, you get the first choice. So it kind of, ensured that the halves would be as close to half as you could possibly get. And so I thought, that's pretty good. But then I thought deeper about that as I was doing this talk. And the consciousness even there was not, I want fairness for my sibling, but I want fairness for me. And so I'm going to make sure that those pieces are equal so she doesn't get more than I get. And so that kind of justice is still referential. self-referential. So I want to read a little bit from this great book called Imagine What America Could Be in the 21st Century. And this is from a chapter on justice. And what they say is, in courts, families, schools, religions, and workplaces, justice has meant getting our just desserts, the rewards and punishments coming to us. And as much as this model is ingrained in us, it makes a mockery of justice and a mess of our lives. First, the standards for meting out rewards and punishments can be unfair, and they go into several examples of how it doesn't work that way. When true justice, harmonizing, healing, transforming justice deepens our philosophy of life, supporting all that's good and true about us, counterfeit justice, judging, punishing, pain-extending justice, plays havoc with our philosophy of life. And so what they're saying in this chapter is that the true model of justice actually comes to us from the Native Americans. And it is being incorporated into our justice system with the term restorative justice. And it means fairness for all. So I'm going to read a little section here about the Pawnee. The Pawnee were a well-disciplined people, maintaining public order under many trying circumstances. Yet they had none of the power mechanisms that we consider essential to a well-ordered life. No orders were ever issued. No assignments for work were ever made or were overall plans discussed. There was no code of rules of conduct nor punishment for infraction. Think about this. There were no commandments nor moralizing proverbs. The only instigator of action was the consenting person. Gradually, I began to realize that democracy is a very personal thing, which, like charity, begins at home. Basically, it means not being coerced and having no need to coerce anyone else. So that is the justice and the fairness that I want in my life, that everyone gets to live their entire life. Everyone gets to live their complete life. Everyone gets to express themselves absolutely fully, and the system or the religion or the philosophy or the upbringing or what we bring forward from our past only supports that. And so the answer, the question is not how can we punish that, or how can we control this, or how can we make sure that this person gets exactly the same as this person, but the question becomes what wants to happen here? What wants to happen here? And so the affirmation is, I support everyone in living their soul's purpose. And how might you do that in the world? How might you have a conversation about that rather than punishing the ones that have done wrongdoing? How can we help everyone live the life that they took birth to live? I knew that I had too much in this talk for today, so I'm going to move on to the third point, which is doing our part for universal enfranchisement and belonging. So enfranchisement is a funny word. We mostly hear disenfranchisement. And disenfranchisement, of course, means that somebody feels out of place. They don't belong. They are disenfranchised, and so they feel on the outs. They are not included. And so enfranchisement must mean that they belong and that everybody belongs. That if we are enfranchised, that we are together with each other. And, you know, instead of an in-group and an out-group, the group that all of us belong in is the group of loved ones of the Creator. We are all in that group. And what if we could see each other as God sees us? Each one absolutely precious. Each one a reflection of the one. So in conversation with one person in our community, there's a technique that you're going to hear about right now that helps everybody feel like they belong. So I'm going to call Suzanne Karchup. to share something that she's been doing. Maybe you have had this experience from her, but I want her to just tell the story of how she came up with this. It's so sweet.
Thank you, Carol. So several weeks ago, I was thinking to myself how I had been attending this spiritual center for longer than I actually even remember how long, probably close to 8 years, and how few people I knew. I know lots of people to say hello and smile and wave across the room, but I really haven't connected with a lot of people. And so taking responsibility for that on my side, I thought to myself on that particular day, you know, one of the things that is easy to do when you're in a crowd of people that you sort of know is just say, hey, how are you doing? Great, fine. How are you? Oh, I'm fine too, thanks. Okay, oh, gotta go. Right? I mean, that's sort of the extent of your connection, maybe a little deeper, but sometimes that's about it. So I decided several weeks ago that I wanted to change that conversation. And so the first person I did this with was Rick Walt. And Rick may not remember, but I went up to him and I said something along the line of, so tell me something this week that you did that, you know, was fun that you want to talk about. And he proceeded to tell me all about his grandson, his little grandson on the East Coast, and he whipped out his phone and he showed me his pictures, things I would never have heard or known. And here that same day was Amanda Craiglow. And I thought, well, this worked really well with Rick. I'll try it with Amanda. And so Amanda and I sat right here on this stage while everything was being packed up, and I sort of asked her somewhat the same question. And she proceeded to tell me all about this performance piece that she was working on in Sonoma, and how she was getting to know all the performers, and how much she was learning, and how just grateful she was for the opportunity, and on and on and on. And I love doing this, and I just encourage you to try it, just not here, but anywhere in your life. Obviously, I recommend that you do it at a time that you actually have a little time to stop and listen to the person, because there is no point saying, as I did to Carol last week, tell me something about your trip that you haven't told anybody else. And she said, well, instead of that, can I tell you this other thing? Controlling woman that we are. But, you know, then she took the time to tell me a portion about her trip of playing the harp for cows, and how much the cows appreciated it, and they clapped. Yeah. With 2 hooves. But also, I needed to be able to be present and have that time to spend with her. There's no point in my asking a question like that and saying, oh, you know, I gotta go. So that's it. I love it, and I'm looking forward to this becoming more common so that somebody asks me, and then I can be the askee instead of the asker. But I just encourage you to try it in your own lives, anywhere, at the store, wherever it is you are that you just want to know something more about somebody. Thank you.
Say what you just said. So how I felt when Suzanne asked me that question, I felt that we belong to each other, that we care about each other, that she cared about me to ask me that question. And as I was telling her my story, it delighted her. And so it was a connection, it was a sweetness that was very touching and very simple. And if we do this, I mean, we do belong to each other. We are each other's gifts. And this is a sweet, easy way of really feeling that we belong to each other. So thank you so much. What a lesson. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. So this is what we do for this part here. I do all that I can to support belonging one unto another. So I'm going to stop here. I did have more examples for each point, but instead I'm going into the conclusion. And the concluding image is this, once again, from Facebook. I mean, it's this is all beautiful. The color doesn't show up, but from 2 John, the apostle from the Bible, it's in that book. It says, "Love one another," and then the idea, of course, is every single other. That is what is going to create a world that works for everyone. In just concluding, I want to read about the circle of belonging from John O'Donohue. And it echoes, it's the same message that Suzanne has in John O'Donohue's words. We need more resonant words to mirror this circle of belonging than the tired word relationship. Phrases like an ancient circle closes, or an ancient belonging awakens and discovers itself, help to bring out the deeper meaning and mystery of encounter. You need to change the rhythm of seeing each other and come in contact again with the ancient belonging which brought you two together. And so with that, the spiritual principles that we are working with this week are, we are all one. And next, peace is the result of living our oneness. And if you want to do this in your life, here's the spiritual practice. When I feel separation, and that means, I chose that word carefully, it's when you feel separated or you're with someone and you perceive that they feel separated. So when I feel separation, I find a way to belong or to help another belong. That will bring about a world that works for everyone. So let's go into the inner work now. Because we do have work to do to steer ourselves and humanity at this time of change. And so in this moment, we do invoke the ancient affinity that John O'Donohue spoke about, the ancient affinity of oneness, belonging to one another and belonging to God. And so in this moment, we contemplate, just like me, everyone that I can think of desires peace and harmony. Just like me, everyone I can think of wants justice and fairness and the ability to live their complete lives. And just like me, everyone wants to feel that they belong. They are not on the outside. They are on the inside of my heart, the inside of my thoughts, the inside of my gentle holding of all of my brothers and sisters. This is the work of the world right now, and so it is.